Now listen, I know some of you don't really care to play an extraction shooter. I think one of the most difficult things for a game to really nail down is just the core feel. Yes, games can rain down loot upon you. They can have all the features in the world, but if it doesn't feel good at its core to play, there's really not a whole lot you can work with. Exoborne is a game that I've been paying attention to since the first time we saw it together live on stream last year. And initially when we first saw it, we thought to ourselves, what is this? Is this Anthem? What are these exosuits? And why is it called Exoborne? And since then, Sharkmob has reached out to us multiple times, allowing us to go through multiple playtests. And hot damn, has this game come a long way in the past year. In the most recent playtests, myself, Liv, and Les all teamed up together. And the improvements from the playtest I got to play back in February was substantial. Everything from improvements to its UI, its inventory systems, a huge rework to the exo rigs themselves. This game is in the final stages before finally being released to all of us. So guys, today I want to walk through not only what Exoborne has accomplished, but what it has done, at least for myself. Outside of us playing a bunch of Marathon this year, extraction shooters aren't really my first type of game that I run to. I like looters, but the reason why Exoborne speaks to us really starts with Sharkmob themselves. The studio, which was founded back in 2017, is a AAA studio who has developed games like Blood Hunt, but also has many developers that came from the Division. These are folks who understand loot progression, and they understand what makes loot desirable. But they also tackle the fundamental, which is the most important for any game, its core feel. And let me just say, guys, Exoborne has got that. Now, before we start digging into the details of what Exoborne is trying to do here and why I think it's going to separate itself from not just the current roster of extraction shooters, but also the upcoming roster from Arc Raiders to Marathon, there is a new wave of extraction shooters that Exoborne is going to be taking on. With that being said, though, I do want to say big thanks to Sharkmob for allowing us to come in and playtest Exoborne even way back before it was even fully polished, but also giving us the opportunity to sit down with Exoborne's creative director, Peter Mannerfeld, who we got to hit with a bunch of questions after our playtest. Now I'm going to talk to you about my gaming experience in its most recent build. And yes, there has been some changes. A lot of it has mainly just been polished. And Sharkmob obviously feels comfortable enough as they've already launched their second playtest today. And I love that during our interview that Peter mentioned that that is going to be such a pivotal point, as despite how good certain playtests may be, when you release it to thousands of players, you really do just cut through so much, right? Like you get to the root of what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and you get waves of player feedback that I think is going to be vitally important. With that being said, though, I want to talk about Exoborne, what they've improved upon, and what their plan is to making it stand out from its peers. What you've probably noticed from a lot of this gameplay is that the movement inside of Exoborne is very fast. And I actually talked to them about this and asked Peter, is this movement too much? Is there a sweet spot? And they actually said that in comparison to Blood Hunt, Exoborne has actually pulled back a little bit more in terms of its movement. Now, the reason why I bring up the movement speed being really fast is that I do know most players that play extraction shooters like to be a bit more tactical, right? They like things to be a bit more slowed down. You'll see fights inside of Tarkov where things can escalate very quickly, but it's often a cat and mouse game between you and your opponents. Exoborne is a little more ARPG than that because of these exosuits. By the way, your character is fully customizable from the look of the character down to its drip, its hair, its eyes. But then you have these exo rigs, and these are essentially like the classes in this game. For instance, Kodiak is essentially like Titans. They're beefier, they've got barricades. You got the Kestrel class, which is like a floating warlock. Viper, which is your Invisboy. And within each one of these branches off into a ton of ways to customize, modify, and add all sorts of things to make that exo rig more powerful. And it all comes down to just getting loot in the game. But something that Sharkmob and Exoborne has done, which is very interesting, is that everything in this game is craftable. Everything can be made, meaning you can even take a scavenger playstyle and literally just go through and scavenge resources throughout the entire game. And if you gather enough, you can get to a certain point where you can craft many of the best items. I'm a fan of this simply because you have multiple ways of getting to where you want and securing those best pieces. Now, I know when you look at this, many of my normal, typical extraction shooter players might think this is too much. You got these classes that almost look like classes pulled from a looter shooter. You've got movement, which seems very fast, as not only are you given a grapple, which you desperately need considering all the different elevation changes in this world, but you also have a shoot that you could pull out. But guys, for me, it just felt good. I hate things that slow me down. If I see a team over there that's about to extract, I want to be able to make it to that team to try to take them out. Yes, at its core, it's an extraction shooter, but it almost has like an arena playstyle to it that in my opinion brings about a different skill gap. I like that I can be in the middle of a gunfight, open my shoot up, be picked up by a nearby windstorm, and potentially get the flank on my enemy. And each one of these extra rigs delivers a playstyle that allows you to approach those engagements in various ways. Now, you probably noticed that this game has a blend of third person and first person, which is really interesting. When you're running around, just normally with your character, you're in third person. But the moment you aim down sights, it throws you into first person. Now, I know this may sound a bit jarring, but for Exoborne, it actually kind of works. Now, this isn't the first game to do this. Even Destiny has third person when you're in your super, or if you're holding things like relics or swords, and then you're in first person the rest of the time. Exoborne, though, really does a good job of seamlessly going in between both third person and first person. And to be quite honest with you, I actually prefer being in first person when it comes to my gunfights. And as far as like traversing and getting around the world, sure, I'll take third person all day long. You know, if anything, it allows me to see who's approaching me. And I know some people are going to bring up a cross. Wouldn't this be an issue of 3-peeking? Potentially, yes. But with so many different ways to counterplay, not just with your guns, but also your abilities here, whether it's abilities tied to your exo rig or even other abilities like calling down a barrage of rockets. It's this level of counterplay that I believe adds to that skill curve. Now, I'm sure many of you already noticed, but the dynamic weather system that's in this game is the most advanced I've ever seen in any game. It's not just, hey, you load into a map and there's fog. No, you have shifts and cycles on the map that is changing throughout the entire time you're playing. And it also seems like everything is random because you'll have storms that will pop up seemingly from nowhere. And these storms can range from just rainstorms to lightning, which seems to be pretty typical, even in things like Marathon. Bungie was really talking about the lightning storms. But Exoborne really goes way beyond that. You'll get actual tornadoes that spawn in. And I'm not talking about just one tornado. I'm talking like 3, maybe even 4 tornadoes. And dude, it's one thing being in a gunfight with another team in perfect weather conditions. It's a whole nother level when you've got 3 fire tornadoes all around you, which by the way, can kill you. You can't just stand in the tornado. Now, one of the changes, or actually 2 of the changes that Sharkmob has made since the last time I played is number 1, they toned down the sound from the tornadoes. The audio before, whenever you were around the tornadoes, was just so loud. It was deafening. So they've turned down the noise. But the other change they made is that if you open your chute next to a tornado, guess what? You'll get sucked into the tornado. Which I know some of you are like, well, no shit, Cross. That's how tornadoes work. Well, this was a change because back inside of the previous playtest, you could really just fly around the tornado and the tornado never really sucked you in. Now, though, the tornado will straight up suck you in. So what I'm trying to say is that if any of you are going to be hitting the playtest coming this Tuesday, if you happen to be around a tornado, do not open your chute. You will die. Now, I know many of my Destiny players are going to ask, Cross, how does the gunplay feel? It's good. Again, everything here is modular. You can build, you can craft all of the components for your weapons. There's a black market too. You could sell things. You could scavenge a number of resources. And all of these contribute to your weapons feeling a lot better. There's also different types of ammo that ranges with different tiers of lethality. Pretty much like most looters, you've got your common goods, green, then blue, then purple, and then gold. Gold being your best. Then you have your weapons themselves, which aren't really colored, but again, it's the mods on the weapons that make them valuable. You have one fully loaded out with those exotic mods. That's going to make your weapons substantially better. Now, like other typical extraction shooters, there's also a secure cache. This is where you can store things like keys, because yes, around the map, you'll come across these various vaults that'll also give you good loot. Now, there are currently 3 different maps that you can play, each one escalating in difficulty. You have Maynard, which is your introductory map. The PvE enemies on this map aren't too crazy. The storms aren't that wild here. And for the most part, you're just going to be going up against other beginner players. Then you have Agnesville, where things get kicked up a little bit more. You can see the environments themselves also change. And then finally, you have the Sinkhole. This was the hardest map that we got to play. I dubbed this map Hell on Earth because yes, everything seems to be on fire. from massive storms rolling through to difficult PvE enemies and a ton of PvP players going for the best stuff. And here's the thing, the way this game is designed is to push players that are getting better and better loot to those harder maps. For instance, in order to get the best gear, you have to go play on the hardest maps. And even beyond that, you can even pick up things like a legendary artifact, which is like one of the most coveted pieces in the game. But get this, it marks you. It will ping everyone on the map, which means you need to be ready to extract as quickly as you can. Now, the reason why I really like the ability to keep keys with me is because you can actually take a key with you that will allow you to call in an extract in certain specific zones that are not your normal extraction zone. They're much quicker, they're safer. Granted, your key is only a one-time use, but say for instance, you pick up this artifact and you're like, man, I gotta bounce. That's the benefit of keeping that key on you for just those moments. Now, I did ask a few other questions in regards to PvE. I wanted to know from Sharkmob, how big of a focus is PvE supposed to be? Essentially what they said is that PvP is still very much the focus. Like, they want this to be more of a PvP game rather than a PvE game, which is why they're not adding a dedicated PvE mode. But they did state that people that were obviously good at the game or had legendary gear would never be facing off against new players. And for the most part, the way they designed the maps, good players with high-end gear will never be back in maps like Maynard. And if they did return to those introductory maps, they would never be placed in the same lobby with you. They even have things like proximity chats. These are vital features that should be present in an extraction shooter. I know we're memeing here, but yes, you'd be surprised there are extraction shooters out there that refuse to add things like this that seem like the most common sense features. But one of the things that really stood out to me the most in my talk with Petter was they make games that they like to play. Like, that's as simple as it gets. And I feel like that's a philosophy that's kind of lost these days, right? It's gotta be a game that you yourself love to play. Yes, you're a developer. Yes, you're just working on creating this product. But we can tell whenever it's a game that's had a lot of passion and love put into it based on nothing more than you just having a hell of a fun time playing it yourselves. Guys, I am very much interested in seeing how Exoborne plays out with all of you. I think this game has got a hell of a studio behind it who are passionate about their game. And yes, extraction shooters may not be the first game type I run to. However, at one time, neither was looter shooters. It took a game like Destiny to turn me into a fan of looter shooters. Exoborne, I'm hoping, might just be that game for me when it comes to extraction shooters. Would love to hear your thoughts though, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.